My approach to counseling is somewhat different than many of my colleagues, and there's a few things that make my approach different. First being, anyone who phones me is going to be screened for domestic violence, power imbalances, drug and alcohol abuse. I want to know that people coming to see me are going to arrive sober, quite frankly, and also be safe, particularly in the context of marital counseling, where we will wind up surfacing a lot of touchy issues. Other things that make me different. Whenever I set an appointment to meet with folks, I always set aside a good 3 hours, not the standard 50-minute session. I wouldn't want my surgeon kicking me off the table saying, hey, we'll pull the scalpel out next week, we ran out of time. Same in counseling. You just get cooking, so to speak. You're engaged in an issue, and to look at your watch or your clock and say, gee, I'm sorry, we're out of time, we'll have to finish up next week, I just think is disrespectful to the needs of the client. So by setting aside a good 3-hour chunk of time, we're pretty much assured that we can end at a place that makes sense versus arbitrarily because we ran out of time. There's other things that make me different as well. One of those things is I'm actually, I give a lot of advice. I share my opinion. You know, in many forms of counseling, it's all about helping you discover you. How do you feel about that? What do you think you should do? What does your partner think? What do you think? Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what he said? And so, while that is helpful for helping some couples explore issues between themselves, I just see that more often gets into circular discussions, the same kind of circular discussions couples wind up having in front of me as they have outside in their private lives. So I don't really go there. My approach is to ask a lot of questions. I actually take people through a very structured interview and funnel down to the issues that then brought them to see me. But then I have a context to understand those issues. Then finally, I actually share my opinions. I rely on social science research. I say, you know, in view of persons who've had that kind of upbringing that you've discussed, we sometimes see these issues. Here's what I see live before me. Here's what I see by virtue of the information you've given me. And in these circumstances, here's what other folks have done that have been helpful to them in terms of addressing these problems. So I'm apt to share my opinion, and I certainly am going to provide direct guidance. This may sound odd. I'm not the hand-holding kind of social worker. You're not going to come and see me week after week to kind of emote and I'm going to sit there with an empathetic look on my face. No, well, I do that anyways. But beyond that, I'm an action-oriented social worker. So I want to help you set a plan to address the very issues for which you came to see me. And quite frankly, if after a second or third meeting, either you're not engaged in the plan, or the plan isn't working and this just isn't helpful, I'm going to withdraw. I take the view that it's not ethical for me to continue to receive a payment for a service that really isn't being either helpful or even utilized. That makes me very different than my colleagues. So people, I'm going to make sure you're safe. I'm going to make sure you're sober when you come to see me. We're going to have a good chunk of time to talk, which I appreciate and my clients appreciate. And there is going to be an expectation that there's going to be an action plan. And with that, hopefully things change.